Hello and welcome to Binge Watch, the podcast where we take a look at the hottest new TV and film releases on streaming television platforms. I'm Hannah Fernando, the editor-in-chief of Woman and Woman at Home magazine.
And I'm Ian McEwen, writer on TV and Streaming Week, TV Times and What's on TV magazines. And today we're looking at the new releases that will be available on Friday the 17th of July 2026, including Diane Morgan and Sue Johnston in a new comedy about an elderly widow and her care robot, and MGM Plus's 1980s set drama The Westies, starring J.K. Simmons as the head of a New York criminal gang.
And we'll also be checking out Will Ferrell in golf comedy The Hawk on Netflix and Anya Taylor-Joy in high-stakes Apple TV crime drama Lucky. But first, Ian, what is in the news?
Shut it! Yes, Ray Winstone will star in Prime Video's action comedy Danger Money as a former member of the SAS who naturally comes out of retirement. What else is in the news, Hannah?
Well, Millie Bobby Brown will reunite with Stranger Things co-star David Harbour. Oh yes, for a Netflix spy drama penned by Jack Thorne about a missing FBI agent and her estranged father.
Two very different comedies this week and two crime dramas. We're going to start on MGM Plus with a new series called The Westies. And here's a clip.
He just killed a made man. The Italians outnumber us about 100 to 1. They're going to come after us with everything they got. And the feds are paying a lot of attention. Watch your back.
Trust me.
Kids these days think they know everything.
So this is a crime drama. You get the first two eps on Sunday the 12th of July, which of course has already been and gone. And then they're going to drop weekly going forwards. And yeah, it's set in, as we said, 1980s New York in the Hell's Kitchen neighborhood. And it's called the Westies because this Irish gang basically rule the west side of Manhattan. Okay. And their leader is Eamon Sweeney, played by J.K. Simmons, who, people probably know him from Spider-Man as the newspaper editor. Also, the fantastic film Whiplash as the horrific leader of the college jazz band. Yeah, he's always good, and he's very good in this. It kind of got a bit of a Goodfellas vibe to it, I would say. There's this sort of uneasy truce between the Irish gang and an Italian gang because this convention centre is being built and they stand to make quite a lot of money out of it. So kind of temporarily, usually it would be kind of all-out war between these gangs, but they're cooperating for the time being. But it's an uneasy truce, we discover, Hannah. And in particular, there's one loose cannon who kind of reminds me of the sort of Joe Pesci character a little bit in Goodfellas. It's this young lad called Mickey Flanagan, played by Stanley Morgan, who's just come out of a psychiatric hospital, and we see him having ECT, electroconvulsive therapy, which is pretty scary. And there's almost like a sort of one flew over the cuckoo's nest moment quite early on in episode 1, which I won't spoil. But yeah, so he comes out, he wants to work for the gang again, although his best mate, Jimmy, played by Tom Brittney, who was kind of the right-hand man to Eamon, he doesn't really want him to get involved with the gang again. And yeah, because he's a rather unpredictable character, well, you sense it's not going to go well. Really well made periods, gangster drama. Simmons is excellent, and he's got a pretty strong young cast around him as his sort of Irish cohorts. There's also a NYPD cop, Glenn, who played by Titus Welver, who, basically the cops want to investigate this Italian family, the Gambinos, and how they're connected to the Westies. And they know that Glenn, he grew up in the neighborhood, so he kind of knows them all. But he, unsurprisingly, is on the take. So he's in quite a tricky, he's caught between a rock and a hard place, and his estranged son is involved with one of the gangs as well. So yeah, it's a good setup. I'm looking forward to seeing how it pans out. Yeah, really enjoyed episode 1. What did you think, Hannah?
I enjoyed it too. It's pretty violent in places, isn't it? And it is pretty, it's not for the faint-hearted. But I always find this kind of underworld and the underbelly of something that's, on the surface that seems so sort of, beautiful and lovely, and tourists love it. This sort of underbelly is quite ugly, and this really portrays that, doesn't it? Really, because this is gang warfare, and he's a really shrewd leader, Amos Sweeney, and he is charming, but he is in equal measure utterly terrifying. And I think you're right, that good fella-esque vibe is absolutely the feel of this, but in a sort of much more modernized way, I think, isn't it? It's got a kind of a slightly different feel to it. And I do think these things, if it's possible, just seem to get more and more violent every time something like this happens. But it is good. It has you on the edge of your seat, and I'd like to watch more.
Move over to BBC One and BBC iPlayer for a new comedy series which you've probably seen being trailed. It's called Ann Droid, and here's a clip.
Mum, I wanted to buy you a present. Now, I want you to be safe.
No, got me a robot.
Search how to stop feeling sad about a dead husband. Music might improve your mood. Danger! Danger!
I am naked.
Yes. According to Lord Sugar, the best way to meet people is to smile and ask a question. How much do you weigh?
What?
Well, this has stars and is written by the absolutely brilliant, I love her. Anyone who has watched Last One on Laughing will know her very well, Diane Morgan. She is, I think she's a comic genius in so many ways. She's just really quite different on the circuit to a lot of comedians, and she brings something really different in this, actually. And I think we'll have everybody laughing out loud and not being able to be the last one laughing, to be honest with you. So this is her hilarious idea for this BBC One comedy called Ann Droid. And it all came about because she was reading an article about how in the future, older people who didn't have kids would end up having robots looking after them. I suppose the whole movement of AI and how quickly that's moving, and the changes, AI hoovers are already, they're around, aren't they? They're quite sort of easily got hold of. And suddenly the caring situation, could it be, completely changed and made better by these kind of these robots? And she thought, well, do you know what? I don't have kids, and this is going to be me, and I'm going to be fed soup by a robot, is what she said. So it's a 6-parter, and the cast is absolutely brilliant because the main star is played by Sue Johnston, and she plays this widow Sue. Her husband, I think she calls him Davey, but I think it's Dave. Her husband died 2 years before, and she's really, really struggling. And her son, his relationship has gone wrong because she was having an affair with her jiu-jitsu, not to be confused with a karate teacher. That's another sort of funny part in it. And he's moved back in with her, which is kind of really well timed, really, because he's there to sort of help her through that grieving process. But equally, he's 42, and it's not somewhere he should be every Saturday night in with his mum, I suppose. But she has a fool, and he gets a robot, and the robot comes to look after her, and that robot is played by Diane Morgan. And it's utterly fascinating. In the first episode, I wondered what hit me, because I've sort of not really read much about this previously. And then when I started to watch it, I thought, how hard is it? Because she's in the bath. In the first episode, she's in the bath, and the robot walks in, and it's flashing, and she kind of goes, oh my God, what are you doing? And then she tells her to jokes because she thinks she's feeling a bit sad. She tells her to piss off a number of times and go back to the room she told her to be in. It's really dry, it's really funny, and it has a sort of a sense of, oh my goodness me, is this what's actually going to happen in the near future? Are we going to be getting robots looking after us? And Sue is so independent. She's a fiercely independent woman. And you even know from the royal family, she's a similar sort of character in this, really kind of gung-ho. And yeah, her son has to move out. He's moving back in with the ex. He's got to go, and this robot moves in. It, from what I've seen, I haven't seen every episode yet. It's on BBC iPlayer, but it really got me straight away. I think it's really funny, and as I say, it's that sort of that edge of thinking, well, actually, could this really be us in a few years' time? What did you think, Ian?
I really liked it, and in fact, I was tipped off by a colleague who'd written about it in our magazines and said, yeah, this is good. And so I had high expectations, and they were more than met. I mean, Sue Johnston, an absolute national treasure, and she's terrific in this. But yeah, as you say, I mean, Diane Morgan, from being Philomena Kunk when she got her, she was working with Charlie Brooker on his series, and Motherland, of course, and Mandy. She's just brilliant. And she's very funny in this. But what I love about this is, I mean, it is highly amusing, and Diane Morgan as the robot is very, very funny. But it's also incredibly moving. I mean, we lost our dad recently, so my mum's on her own, and it just really chimed with me. And I was actually in tears towards the end of episode 1. It was just. So it's kind of like a bit like Mackenzie Crook manages to sort of combine quite quirky character comedy with really moving things as well, and she's achieved that. And I just think, yeah, it's an absolute delight. It's highly original, and I mean, we mentioned Charlie Brooker. It is the sort of thing, the sort of subject matter that might have cropped up in Black Mirror. In fact, I think there is an episode of Black Mirror where someone buys an android and assembles it, in their home. It's just delightful, funny, moving, terrific, recommended. Over on Netflix, we have another new comedy series called The Hawk. And here's a clip.
Lonnie Hawkins is 3 feet from making his mark on golf history. You've got to be kidding me.
You were a big shot golfer.
I still am a big shot golfer. I just need to get my groove back.
Dad, the guys are saying that I'm the Hawk now.
Golf is easy.
I think that you're afraid that our son is going to eclipse the great Lonnie Hawkins.
This one's a 10-parter, and it stars, and I think was created by, American comedy legend Will Ferrell. And it's all about a kind of slightly washed up pro golfer who, in his day, well, his nickname is the Hawk. His full name is Lonnie Hawkins. And back in the day, he won 3 golfing majors, which is, pretty incredible. And but he narrowly missed out on also winning the 4th and last major, and thereby completing what's known as the Grand Slam, the career Grand Slam. But he still hankers after that, one last shot at glory. And meanwhile, his son Lance, who's played by Jimmy Tatro, is kind of the new superstar of the game, and people are starting to call him the Hawk, which Dad doesn't like. And Dad lives in this big tour bus, and just his life is a mess. His life's a mess. His finances are a mess. He hasn't really got a very good relationship with his son. He's kind of jealous of his son. He's maxing out his ex-wife's credit card. I mean, I really like Will Ferrell. I think he's hilarious. And yeah, this is the thing, I like sporting comedies, I like golf. You think this would be the kind of thing that would appeal to me. So we've had things like Happy Gilmore. We've had 2 Happy Gilmore films, haven't we? We had that series, The Stick, with Owen Wilson as a kind of washed up golf pro. So I kind of thought, this ticks all the boxes. I'm going to love this. However, having said that, Luke Wilson actually appears in this as a sort of old rival of the Hawk. yeah, I thought this would be right up my street or fairway. It's enjoyable enough, and Will Ferrell is good value, whatever he does. He's great to watch, but I kind of felt tonally it was a bit odd. Perhaps it's because I think Ferrell's at his best when he's playing characters who are just idiotic, like in Talladega Nights when he plays the NASCAR driver. In this, I mean, it's a very unsympathetic character, the Hawk, and also, I mean, as well as doing really kind of quite broad comedy, very broad comedy, then there's also the kind of, I think you're supposed to kind of care about these relationships, difficult relationships he has with his son and his ex. So, to be honest, I think they could have wrapped it all up in a relatively short feature film. I think that would have been a better move, because I'm definitely not going to sit through 10 episodes of this. But yeah, I was entertained by episode 1, and yeah, as I say, I mean, I just love Will Ferrell. He's terrific, but I kind of was a bit disappointed as well. What did you think of this, Hannah?
I think the reason you didn't like it, you kind of hit the nail on the head, but it's the fact that Will Ferrell usually plays these very lovable, very, very hilarious characters that just sort of, there's nothing not to like about them, really, is there? But really, this guy is a complete narcissist. There is nothing really nice about him at all. Even seeing one of his rivals as his own son, and he absolutely hates it. He's just kind of completely competitive on another level, and that just, I think, because we know Will Ferrell in so many things previously, to see him like this, I think it just sits a bit oddly, but really because of him. And I kind of wonder whether he was the wrong person to do this in some ways, and whether actually, if it wasn't him, whether we'd enjoy it more, because I do think Will, you just don't expect this of him. So I would agree with you. I don't think it needs to be this long. It feels quite drawn out. And yeah, it's just, I mean, he's just a really unpleasant human, really, isn't he? That's not particularly caring, and makes you see Will Ferrell not in a different light, because clearly playing a character, but it's not his safe ground. It's not his usual territory. And I think that's why, if I'm honest with you, it sits a bit strangely.
Okay, well, we're going to finish on Apple TV with another crime drama. It's called Lucky. And here's a clip.
I taught you how to survive in the life that you were born into.
I know, Dad. Just thinking I'd like to get out of here alive.
Yes, another crime drama, an unusual Apple TV style. This just is high stakes, sort of really well shot piece of work, isn't it, really, to me anyway. It isn't my usual kind of stable, I would say, something like this. I think that but it's really, really pacey. It's absolutely action packed drama, and Anya Taylor-Joy, she who plays Dushana, Lucky for short, she really is the main focus in this, and that's actually quite nice. It's quite often men, isn't it, in situations like, there is obviously a man in this, and she is a duo, but I just feel like it focuses on her, which is quite nice too. And not only do you have the kind of violence and the drama and the craziness, there is also some sensitive parts too. So you do see how she's feeling the scenario. So to go back to the beginning, it's based on a novel by Marissa Stapley, which I've not read, and Anya Taylor-Joy, as I say, plays Lucky, and she's a really confused, had a really troubled childhood, and she saw loads and loads of bad things happening in her childhood, carried out by her con man dad. So kind of this sort of underworld, this underbelly of society was kind of in her blood, I suppose. And she was, and I guess if you look at that, it will either turn you into that world and think I can do this too, or it will turn you completely off. And I think there's part of you that thinks that she was going to be turned off by it, she wasn't going to do it, but actually in reality, when her dad's in prison, She's married to somebody who is also a very charming chap, but the troubled son of a very, very terrifying crime boss. And so they become embroiled in this very lucrative heist. One job and you're set up for life kind of situation. Is it too much for them to turn down? Well, yeah, of course it is. And you see them on the run. You see, as I said, it's incredibly dramatic. But in the end, is it going to give them really what they want? And the reality is, probably not. But it's I don't know. There's something. I feel that there's something quite different to this in a way. I think she plays the role really, really well. And the reason I think it's good is because I kept wanting, even though they were doing something bad, I kept wanting them to be successful at it because I liked the characters, even though they were doing bad things. So yeah, it's not one that you can cook the dinner, at the same time. You need to sit down and absolutely watch it. It's quite captivating from what I've seen so far. What did you think, Ian?
I really liked it. And obviously we know from Queen's Gambit how amazing Anya Taylor-Joy is. She was superb in that. And she's just very distinctive looking as well, isn't she? She really just draws you in. And I particularly like the fact that, so it starts the night and then the morning after this heist that they've pulled. And there's, suitcases full of cash in the bedroom. So they don't show you the heist, which is a pretty bold move. And then her other half, spoiler alert, but it happens right at the beginning. He just vanishes with all the money. And both the police and criminals are now looking for Lucky. And so there's this great sequence. She's staying in the casino, which is also a hotel, of course. And there's this great sequence where she has to somehow get out of there while it's swarming with cops. And that is she's just incredibly resourceful. But then it's out of the frying pan into the fire. You will discover, and I mean, Annette Bening, we saw her in Dutton Ranch playing a formidable rancher. And in this, she really is a mother-in-law from hell. You will find out why. So yeah, I thought this. I mean, it's also really exciting as well, action-packed, rattles along at a great pace. It's really well shot. It's well written. She's terrific in it. So yeah, I thought it was excellent. And yet another. I think it's going to be another hit for Apple TV. Normally, I would ask you at this point, Hannah, what the hell you've been binge watching, but of course you've been away, so I don't know if you've been able to watch much telly.
Well, I have been away, but I have watched a bit, and it's been completely sporting, to be honest with you. I told you a while ago, a couple of weeks ago, I was boycotting football. It was impossible to where I was in Spain because even when we were at the restaurant, there were mobile phones on the table and everyone was watching it. And it was on in the squares and everyone was watching it. But also what I did really enjoy was Wimbledon, because I was lucky enough to go to Wimbledon before I went away. And I watched the Sinner match. And so it was really great to see him in the final play and win. And with a half Italian husband, that went down.
You've
really,
got a great
well.
life. I watched Wimbledon, Arthur Ferry, very much enjoyed. Yeah. I've also been watching, the Tour de France highlights. Of course, you used to be able to watch it all afternoon on, was it ITV2? But no, they don't have it anymore. But enjoying that. Now, once again, usually at this point, Hannah, we would look forward to next week's offerings. However, you're going to be away again. I'm going to be away. So Binge Watch will be taking a break for just 1 week. And then, when we return, we'll be checking out Pierce Brosnan as an he's doing an accent again, as an Irish boxing trainer in Prime Video sports drama Giant,
and a new Disney Plus crime drama Furious, about the hunt for a female serial killer who is targeting wealthy men.
So we look forward to those and much, much more. But in the meantime, dear listeners, it's happy holidays and
keep